Hello, welcome to this tutorial video for the TWList list player. Hi, Courtney Gooden here once again from my video workshop, and we're going to be demoing and running through the basic function of the TWList list player, which is one of the 6 programs that comes on this, the TWList Video Playback Toolkit. We'll be playing back everything you see today on this device, which is a little stick PC, and once again we're using the Bluetooth keyboard like this wirelessly to control it. And without further ado, let's jump right into the program itself. Comes up here in our launcher, as you've seen before if you've seen the other videos. The one we're talking about in this particular instruction is the list player, so we're going to double click on TWLP there, and that brings up the list player. Normally this list player probably works best if you've got a dual display up, so you'd hook up an external display link adapter to the toolkit, or if you have a laptop that runs this, you could run this where this would be on one screen, your list play remote, which is the small window here, and your video window would be separate. You could slide it over to the external screen here and maximize it to full screen with Alt F, and your videos would appear there. Let me clear my logo stills out here because I'm going to show you how to load those in a second. Okay, so the first thing, let me just take this off of full screen because it'll be easier to see in this demo if you see the screen side by side here. So you can imagine that that's on a separate screen, on an external output, or full screen here. So the first thing you do, this is a list player, so you build a playlist. This is for situations in a live show, for example, where you're showing clips of, film clips from some person's career, and you then might want to go to a bumper slide or a title slide or something, and then go to another clip and another clip. Or if you want to build the news stories in a news show, you can build one after another. Anywhere you need a series of files to play in sequence, either automated or one right after another, or with pauses in between and stills in between. So you can set it up in this particular playlist. So the first thing you do, you have this thing up here. It's called the grid, which is this grid box up here with there's nothing in it right now. So to add, we've navigated to where I have some videos stored, and I click on video in my file browser here. And these are H.264 videos, but they can be whatever format that the player will play. And let's load the first one here. Let's call it 0. Click on Add to Grid. And you'll notice it added, these have short file names, so I'm going to move this over a little bit so we can see a little more. You can scroll down. As you load each file, it looks to see if you've got any a bookmark file in there, and if you do, it'll load all these bookmarks in here. And it has a custom volume that you can set as well. The other columns in here, so there's the file name, there's the file duration, there's the in queue and an out queue. Right now the in queue is set at 0, out queue is 119. This shows you the clip duration and so on. So as you add clips, I'm going to add another one here. When I click on Add to Grid, it'll automatically move down to the next one on the list. So if you happen to have your files arranged in alphabetical or numerical order, handily. But let's say I want to load one that's not in numerical order. Let me just click on this down here and add that to the grid. So I've got 6 files loaded there. And let's say I want to add some stills, because instead of just playing one file into the next and the next, I want it to pause and either go black or go to a logo or hold on a still frame of another file. So let me load some stills into here that I'm going to be using. I have up to 9 positions of stills that I can have online that I can choose between when it hits the end of a file. So to do that, you hit L key, and that puts it into logo mode. And that's important because there's no button that does that. So L, and you'll see it says status logo equals right up there. That'll tell you you're in logo mode. And you'll notice that my file list box switched to JPEGs. So it'll load JPEG files or BMP files, either of those two. So now I just select, these logo boxes are numbered from 0 to 8. So across like this 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the first one, I'm going to double click over here. That's going to load that logo into the first one. Let's say into the second one, I want to put world map. Third one, I want to put I don't know, check disbursements, whatever that. All right, let's put charts and graphs. Let's do that. Okay, and as you load each one, you'll see it in the screen here. I'm prepping this job. Let's say. That's not too interesting. Maybe that chart. Anyway, whatever bumper slides you want to store in there that are going to be interstitial and used in your playlist. So you load those all up. There's also a preview window you can use when you're loading video files. So once you're through loading logos, remember to hit the space bar. That takes you out of logo mode. And notice I switched back to MPEG-4 here's in my list box. And it says ready here in the status, so that moves me out of the logo file. And I want to click reset if this is the first time, if I've just built this file, this playlist. And what that does is it resets you to the beginning of the list and loads the first two files in, gets them ready to go, and that's all set up. Now, you can determine what happens. Either when you play a file, it'll play from beginning to in queue to out queue, and this little total time here totals up the total length of time of each clip from its in queue to its out queue. So even if you have custom in queue like 18 does down here, it will take that into account. And when it totals up the total time, we've got 9 minutes and 49 seconds worth of clips here loaded total. And as you play, the current position will show you the current position on the file, and the time to the next will count down until it hits the end and triggers the next file. Now, will it trigger the next file, or what will it do when it hits the end? That's the question. Whatever you have set in this little drop-down box, it will do, unless you've preloaded something else, unless you've given it some instructions here where it says at end. So if it's in loop list, it'll just go directly to the next file. Here, I'll let you see what happens here. So it'll go directly to the next file and continue playing from that file. And it can either do a direct cut like that, or let me reset back to the beginning here. Go back to my first file. If I have push wipe checked down here instead of cut, it'll just slide the video to the left or right. So if I'm playing here, spacebar plays and pauses. CQ, the C key will cue me back up to the beginning of the current file that's playing. Alt-N will do the same thing as clicking this next video file button. So let's say I'm playing along down here and I've got push wipe turned on. You'll see what happens, and it's set on loop list. It will just slide the next video in and play it. So there it goes. But you can have it cut. I think cut is a little less. Oops. R key brings the remote back. A remote window can be hidden with either click hide or press the R key. We'll bring it back up if it's been lost or minimized, or Windows has suddenly decided it wants to hide things, which I noticed in Windows 8 and 10 they have this strange thing. If you wiggle a window, it minimizes all the other windows for some reason. And so you have to unminimize them down here, clicking on them. So careful about wiggling a window if you've got multiple windows open. All right, so like I say, what happens in this little drop-down box? I've got loop list turned on. That means it's going to play right into the next one without stopping. If I click on loop this file, what it'll do is it should just continue to loop that file when it hits the end. So it'll just keep playing that file over and over again until I hit next video. And so see, it started that same file once again. We're still on number 2 here. This little line here, the green line, tells you the current playing file, and the next queued file is in yellow here. As it shows you over here, 2 and 3, that tells you that the index number 2 file, my index over here, open that up so you can see the word index. 2 is currently playing, and 3 is going to be the next one playing. But let's talk about what happens at the end. Now, we have loop this file, so we just discussed that. Now we can set a custom function, custom behavior for each one of these files at end. So to program that, you set your behavior here in this drop-down. Let's say I want this one to pause at the next file, but in black. So I click pause next in black, and then I'm going to click over here. This is the one that's playing now. So I'll click and pause in black there, and we'll say the next one I want it to pause at next, and that will puts a P in the add in here, which means it'll pause at the next file. So it'll just hold on a freeze frame at the beginning of the next file, the next video, or I can say pause next in logo. So if I want it to pause and bring up one of these logo files as an interstitial bumper, I just pick whichever logo file I want first, put this on pause and logo, and then just click in this little box over here and see it says PL1. That means pause in logo number 1. If I wanted it to pause in that one, just click over here, pause logo 2, etc. And let's say I want to pause this one in logo 3. So you saw it hit the end of the file there. Let's see, pause logo. Wait, pause in logo 3. You want to do this programming while it's not playing, obviously, because it changes things as you're changing things. You don't want it to be playing into the file that you're correcting, so on. So I've got pause in black, pause next, pause in a logo, loop this file. Set that to that one is LF, which means it'll just play that file over and over again until you hit Alt next. And if you don't have anything in there, it will just do whatever is currently up in this box. Once you start selecting things, it's probably a good idea to program each one on what to do. That one is loop that file, so that would loop forever. Let's say you had a little animated repeating logo that runs in a loop. You could have that up until the audience files in, and then as soon as you're ready to go, the first video, you just hit Alt N for next, and it would go to the next logo. The next video file. So to reset back to the beginning, Alt R, and hit the space bar if you happen to have a logo up. It's queued up now. At any time while you're paused, you can either hit the B key to go to black, or hit the logo, the L key to go to whatever logo you have selected. You can just click on any one of these to select a different logo to be up. So black, or select a logo, and then hit L. So if I want to change logos, I can go to black and then change logos and then hit L again. All right, that is how you pre-program what to do at the end. So once you build your list, you'll notice that we'll go through here and we'll see how we saw how loop file works. Let's go to the next video, which would have done that at the end. So we'll jump down here near the end so you can see this one's supposed to pause in black. So when it hits the end of this file, it should just go to black and wait. And there it is in black. And then to play back the next file, I just hit the space bar. We'll start playing the next file. This file is supposed to pause at next, which means it'll hold on a freeze frame of the next at the beginning of the next file. So let's jump down here to the end and see what happens when it hits the end here. There's the freeze frame of the next file. So then to start playing that, I just hit the space bar to start playing that. This file, when it hits the end, is going to go pause in logo number 2, which is those charts. So let's see what happens here. There it is, paused on the charts. Hit the space bar to start playing the next video file. Now at any time I can jump to the next file, and if, let's see, this one's supposed to pause at logo 3, so if I hit Alt-N to jump to the next file, it'll go to the logo 3 like it's supposed to at the end of this file, and the next file is up behind that logo, so then I hit the space bar to start the next file. And so at any time you can just skip over one to the next one. If you had set bookmarks using the TWList Media Player, and you'd set these custom bookmarks in here, they will load in so that you can have these, hit the F keys, F1 through F10, to jump to these custom bookmarks within the file. You can do that to jump around. And you can set a custom in queue and an out queue. You'll notice this in queue is not the start of the file. And you can do that for, let's say you're running through your files and somebody gave you a video and they haven't trimmed it up yet. It's got a title on the head of it or a countdown leader or something, and so you want to trim that off. You don't have to go back and actually cut the video file. Let's do number 2 here. Well, let me show you what happened there. When I double click on a while a video is playing, I can double click on any other video, and that'll set that video as the next one. So you'll see the next one is set to this one, number 1. That's the next video up. And so now if I hit Alt-N, it'll jump to number 2. And set number 3 is my next video up in the list. So you can skip around if you want to, so I'm playing number 1 here, and I want to skip over number 2 because that person didn't show up or something. Just double click on 4. That sets this one to be the next file up. So it'll jump from this one to this one when it hits the end. But let's say this file that I'm playing here, number 1, we can jump back here to the beginning. Let's say I want to trim off the first of this piece here and set a new in queue. We're with Marco Rubio here. So I'll hit Shift-I. And that'll shift my in queue to whatever position I'm parked at here with the player. So now whenever I get to this video, it will start at that start mark rather than the start of the file. So you can go through, and you can also set a new out queue, like Shift-O. Oops, I hit Shift-I. My mistake. Let me go back over here and hit Shift-I again. Move it back to where I need to. Where were we? Marco Rubio. Shift-I. Oops, missed. I'll get it right yet. Here's Shift-I. There it is. Okay, and we set the out queue here. Should be Shift-O. There. So unfortunately, I shifted the O to where we were and went to pause in black, so it jumped to the next video. So we'd reset to the end here and jump down to where we were at, was it 2? Now we hit Alt next and play. Actually, I missed. It was 1. 1 has the custom in queue that I set here. So let me jump to that one next. Next. There's Marco Rubio's next. Okay, so you can see you can trim, you can rehearse. During rehearsals, you can trim your video files, and you can then save your run list. If you click on Save List down here, it'll ask you for a name. Just type something like my list. Hit enter. And it will save an INF file, and it'll put it in the same folder as your videos are. So if you click on playlist, you'll see my list here. So then if I quit, for example, and I've made changes to some of those files, the in queues and out queues, the volume settings. Then if next time I launch the list player, and I want to go back to that playlist that I previously built. When you first start off, it should show you your playlists here at the bottom. So I'll just double click on my list, and it loads all of those files in, and includes the ones that I set those alternate. You can see it here, the alternate in queue one. So all of my custom settings and trimmings will be, and you can see it here, the add-ins are all programmed in. So then I should be able to play my list just by loading that one INF file. Now if you quit, every time you quit, it will store a list, an LST file, which is your playlist, it'll be called last list, and you'll see it here if you go to playlist, last list with a dash on the left of it. So it'll always be the first one in the list, usually. And so if you double click on last list, that'll show you the last list you had loaded before you quit. But it only saves out that last list if you quit by hitting the quit button. I think if you just close it by closing the remote key there, it does not save that last list. So, and your logo stills will always remain loaded unless you hit clear all logo stills. They'll come back up automatically, so they will. That's easy to. You don't have to go back and reload those every time you run the program, as long as your logo stills remain the same. Okay, let's see. Validate and rebuild list. You want to use that if you're gone away and you've built a list on another machine, or you've changed your media or something. So if you're not sure if that all of these files are still where you left them, if somebody unplugged a thumb drive or an external drive, it would have problems if it tried to play a file that it couldn't find. So you want to stop playing here and hit validate and rebuild list. And if you click over here to your preview window, you can see what's going on here. It's going out and it's finding each file, and it's checking it, checking its in queue, its out queue, its duration, and it totals up, creates a new total time here for the list, totaling up all the time between the in queues and the out queues for each file in the list, and it'll correct any data to what was loaded in the original file. And one thing to watch out for is sometimes the MPEG-4, the H.264 codecs, have a slight bug in them. If they run off the end of the file, because they sometimes, especially longer files, it can't really accurately calculate the exact length of the file to the frame. And so sometimes it'll run off the end of the file, and it sometimes can crash the codec. You never know when that's going to happen. So in order to try and ameliorate that bug, what I built in here is an end trim. And what I set this on is a number of milliseconds up here, like 388 or whatever. So whatever this little slider is set on, when it loads each file, it will set the out queue that many milliseconds before the end of the file. So it's constantly looking to see if it's past its end queue to trigger the next file or trigger the transition to the still frame, whatever. When it shows this data corrected, when you validate and rebuild a file, it will rebuild the file and change the out queues by this amount from the end of the file to reflect, that slop in there to prevent the codec from running off the end of the file when it hits the end. So that is how you validate and rebuild the file. So it'll say data correct if it changes any data, and it'll give you a warning in a window if it can't find the file. So if a file has disappeared somewhere, or that, let's say you're playing stuff off a thumb drive or something and the thumb drive has been removed, it will let you know. All right, full screen is self-evident what that does. You can change the volume. You have a volume slider here, and as you're going through, sometimes you're getting files from different sources. When you change the volume for whatever file is playing at this time, So you're playing it and you're checking it. You can change the volume here, and what it'll do is set a custom volume for that file if you change it. If you don't change it, it'll just come up at whatever volume this is set to here. But you can set a custom volume for each file. So if I went to my next video and I wanted to set that volume a little bit higher, see, it sets the volume to 74. So you can have a custom volume setting for each file. If the audio is low on one or two of the videos, you can have it equalized that way by setting a custom volume setting. And when it loads each file, it'll set the volume to that setting as it goes from file to file, and that helps you equalize out some of the differences between files from different sources, things like that. All right. I think I covered most everything. If you want to edit your list, you can go through here, and it's best to do this, by the way, while it's not playing, or reset it to the beginning, whatever. But you can select an item just by clicking on an item in the list here, click the item number. It will highlight the whole list, and you can remove that item. So we don't want to have that one. Or we want to insert, if I want to insert a new file number 3 there, I want to use video number 7 here. I can hit insert item, and notice it put 7 here before 2. So it just inserts it and moves all the rest of them down in the list. So that's how you can insert or remove an item from the grid. You can clear list, clears the list and lets you start over again. And we talked about save list before. So let's say, and one thing to remember, that when you load a playlist in and you've got things in here, it's cumulative. It'll load whatever playlist you click on at the end of the last item in your current list. So you can use that to build multiple playlists as individual pieces, and then add them together by selecting one, then the other, then the next one. So let's say if I clicked on my list again here, it just loaded all of the videos in my list there to the end of this. So now we've got 12 items in my list here. If I hadn't hit clear list. If you want to start fresh, just remember to hit clear list beforehand and then double click, and that'll load your previously saved playlist. Okay. The net remote is used, you can use another computer to control playback over Wi-Fi with net remote enabled, which we're going to demo at some point, which is going to be this net remote program, which you'd be running on another computer. You'll be able to control reset, pause, play, next cue, which would go to bookmark cues if you have them, or say, I think in this one it's next video. It goes to the next video in the list player, or go to the logo, or go full screen, or go to black, etc. All that can be controlled from the net remote if you have that enabled and you have it on another computer. All right. I think I show you the preview. You can use the preview window to preview videos here. Just select a video you want to preview and click on preview here, and it'll play it in this little window down here. You can, if you size this window up, it'll make the preview window bigger. So if you're browsing to try and figure out which video is which, you can browse through them using the preview window without affecting, what you've got up out here. If let's say I had the logo up, not a great logo. Let's say I had that logo up. Okay, and then I preview window back. Okay, now I can be previewing. I'm in logo mode. Space. So I can be previewing files over here. I have to fix that because it switches to logo mode every time I hit L. So if you're trying to preview while you've got a logo up, that might be a problem. It might be hard to do, but I may change that because I can. All right, so that's the preview window. When you turn that off, you see your logo stills once again. So that covers everything there. If you have a file that had bookmarks or custom in queues and out queues, it will load them in here. For example, this one here. If we jump to that one, next video, you'll see it. It has these bookmarks in here. 1, 2, 3, 4 function keys take you to those bookmarks, which you can use. You can't set those in this program. From within this program, the only thing you can do is trim the in queue and the out queue. You can't really set bookmark files. You can jump to them if they're previously set with a BMK file that came along with your video file. That file was created in the media player, which is this program over here and part of the toolkit. You can use that to set bookmarks, and then when you save your markers there and load it into the list player, those markers will come in over here as well as custom in queue and out queue. So if you have a custom in queue and out queue, be forewarned that when you load them into the list player, they're going to support those. All right. We talked about validated, saving files, saving lines, removing items. I think we covered just about everything. Just remember that it's going to do what you choose over here. And the choices are loop list, means it plays into the next file directly, doesn't stop. Loop this file means it will loop that file forever until you hit Alt-N or next video. Pause it next, pauses at the still frame of the next video. Pause at next in black means it'll pause at the next video it'll put up a black screen, and then when you hit the space bar, it will start right off at the beginning of the next video. Pause next in logo means it'll start at it'll queue up the next file, but put up a logo from the logo list down here, and stay parked to the logo until you hit the space bar to start playing again. Or Alt P, that's another way to play. Okay, and when you're done, hit quit. And whenever you quit, it will save your last list. So if I'll start up again here, maybe, there we go. I can click over to playlist here and go last list, and that will load up whatever the last list I had loaded was before I quit. So it's a handy way to get back to normal if somebody unplugs your power, or you quit without saving accidentally after building a very delicate, carefully arranged list. As long as you hit quit here to exit the program, it'll save your last list and any changes that you made to it. So that concludes the instructions, the basic instructions for the TWList list player. Next up will be the TWList net remote. So don't forget to come back for that one. So thanks again for watching, and stay tuned.